All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host today, Samantha Studebaker Carl, and I'm here with my good friends Catherine and Dan and Jason. And today we are continuing our discussion of Sacred Contracts by Caroline Myss. We are in chapter 4 in the section titled, well, let's see, it's kind of a bigger section. Well, either way, we're in chapter 4 and we're going through the different, says the living shadow, and we're at the part, let's see here, I'm on page 130 in the hard copy, about halfway through the section called shadow contracts. So if you're following along in the book, hopefully you'll be able to find the spot where we're starting. And then, but before we get going, I want to give my friends an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then Catherine, you can take it with the reading.
Dan Sissick in Las Vegas.
Hey, this is Jason Robertson, Tampa. Good to be here. Morning.
Good morning. It's Catherine Clement. All right. So just to recap slightly, what this section was talking about is how people can be influenced and like they found out that people would torture other people quite readily. They didn't seem to have a problem with torturing other people. So it's just talking about the shadow aspect. So what is in one is in the whole. Murder and torture occur because humanity as a group does not yet sufficiently value life in all its expressions. Perhaps that lack of a sacred vision leads to the incarnating of bleak and brutal experiences. We all share a potential for becoming either the instigator or the victim of harm, whether physical or emotional. What we do to heal the victim and the aggressor within ourselves is the universal contribution we can each make toward healing the whole. And if we are ever to achieve our highest potential, we need to be, at the very least, puppets with awareness. People who committed heinous crimes, including mass murder, did have other options to learn what they needed to learn. They had the choice to act appropriately and morally, just as we all do, but they exercised their free will, chose wrongly, and heaped untold suffering on others. Ultimately, I believe, they themselves do suffer, whether in this life or the next, or both. Perhaps these individuals have agreed to act as reflections of the darkest shadows of human nature. Although God has not assigned them to commit great evils, they may have been presented with a choice to act, and evil is one outcome of their choice. It is a basic spiritual impulse to try to find meaning even in tragedy, which awakens our need for greater action, justice, and protection of human rights. Uncivilized behavior, murder, and tyranny strengthen our belief in civility, civilization, and democracy. Undisguised bigotry and hatred wake us to the need to practice love, compassion, and tolerance. It may seem facile to say that the Crusades, the Inquisition, slavery, the Holocaust, Stalin's purges, or the killing fields of the Khmer Rouge were meant to be learning experiences for the rest of us, especially when atrocities continue today under the guise of ethnic cleansing or the will of God. But I would argue that our awareness of the potential for escalating evil has led us globally to condemn and curb attempts at mass murder. Nonetheless, looking at the forces of fundamentalism, civil war, and corporate greed around the world, we may have even harder lessons to learn. Confronting the shadow. Learning to confront and ultimately manage your shadow, no matter how daunting it may appear, is an essential step on your road to spiritual maturity. Lucy's life is one illustration of how your world can change once you decide that you and not your shadow will create your future. Lucy spent years trying to please everyone but herself, which is hardly a rare dilemma. I had read a book a few years ago about a woman who decided one day just to pack up a few belongings and take to the road without a map or a personal agenda. Lucy told me she was just going to take her life one day at a time. I was filled with envy when I read that. Her story made me feel like a prisoner. From that moment on, I was miserable. It wasn't my job. It wasn't my family. It was me and my belief that everyone's happiness depended on my being in their lives. I encouraged their dependency, and at the same time, I resented every one of them. Lucy realized that she was determined to control every person under her care because by keeping them dependent on her, she would not have to face her own weaknesses. She could tell herself that her family members were the children or victims, and she was in charge of the tribe. The anger that would erupt in her when their problems got to be too much for her was her inner self attempting to communicate to her that she was using her power to prevent people from taking charge of their own lives. Her fear of not being needed caused her to fear their independence, and yet their lack of independence caused her to resent their weaknesses. Many people fear their own empowerment and unconsciously encourage their shadows to thrive. This happens in particular when conscious empowerment represents change, which can be terrifying. Change signals loss of control and entry into the unknown, but even beyond fear of change, empowerment represents isolation, which people will do anything to avoid. Perhaps this is the very core of our paradoxical view of empowerment. Our image of awakening to and fulfilling our divine potential evokes the idea of an individual who is whole and complete, separated from less mortals, isolated and alone. Culturally, we have yet to envision a realistic, appealing model of the spiritually empowered human being, someone who is simultaneously vulnerable, capable of sensual love, and worthy of a mate. We believe that enlightened people don't have the same needs or vulnerabilities that we do, or the same shadows. We also believe that enlightened people don't age, don't suffer, or mourn. I have seen the archetype of the whole, perfected human at work countless times in people. You would think that someone with her occupation would be above such emotions, people say, when a spiritual role model is shown to have feet of clay. Or, you should see the way he lives. He's anything but celibate. We do not want to be whole if it means being alone. And we do not want enlightenment if it requires living as an ascetic. So deep within our unconscious, we feed the energy of the saboteur, that part of ourselves that maintains our shadow pattern and fuels our fragmentation. We fear our own empowerment because it represents changes in our lives that would remove us from the warmth of those who love us for being vulnerable. And we fear being empowered because then we can no longer claim that we are not responsible for our actions. Although we want to be around a person who is enlightened or consciously working on becoming enlightened, we deeply fear the high price our own enlightenment will make us pay. Assuming personal responsibility for the quality not only of our actions, but also of our attitudes is a lifetime discipline. We cannot rest in the harbor of blame. So we unconsciously and sometimes consciously encourage our own weaknesses and hold on to our fears. As long as becoming enlightened represents isolation for us, we will shun our own empowerment. We fear to realize our highest potential, and this inevitably affects our creative, financial, and career potential. After you introduced me to this idea, a man named Maury told me, I started to look at each person in my life as representing some power in me that I needed to realize. This perspective was naturally far more useful when it came to dealing with those individuals with whom I knew I had a power struggle. But still, I became observant of exactly what made me feel powerless in certain relationships, and I would then study that feeling in me. I thought about how I would change were I to fill in that part of me with self-esteem, for instance. In each case, I could see immediately that my life would change dramatically with each choice I made to respond consciously to every interaction I had. In one case, I was with a friend who was celebrating his new membership to a very exclusive country club. I don't have the income required to belong to that place, and my first response was envy. I resented his being able to afford the type of life he has. But then I separated from him and turned the mirror on me. I confronted the fact that he represented a kind of power that I had not developed. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that my resentment went beyond just that description. I had to admit that I resented the fact that he had the discipline to go the extra mile to mature that power in him, whereas I was more inclined to look for reasons to knock off early from work. He saw everything as an opportunity and did all he could with his job. My resentment had nothing to do with money. It had to do with the manner in which he managed his potential. Once I admitted to that little insight, I knew that from that point on, I would have to take full responsibility for making lesser choices regarding my own opportunities in life, because he and I were being handed the same chances. The only thing that was different between us was our response to those opportunities. Now I force myself to go that extra mile, but it's not easy. Every time I hang in there, I hear a voice telling me to find an excuse to take the easy road. Some part of me obviously does not want to grow up, and it's that part of me that waits until Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock to declare that the weekend has begun, just as I did when I was a kid. The symbol of the 3 o'clock school bell told me how deeply the child in me wants life to be a vacation. But I'm understanding myself better each step of the way. I'm recognizing my saboteur and my dependent child and other patterns that indicate that some part of me simply does not want to manage an empowered life. I also have to admit that I derive great inspiration from my country club friend because now I see him as representing my potential instead of the life I cannot have. He's simply a few opportunities ahead of me. Maury chose to respond to his feelings of envy about his country club friend by recognizing that they were the consequence of his own power deficits. He separated his shadow responses from his feelings of friendship. He realized that he resented the power his friend had to maximize his potential and appreciate all the opportunities life had to offer. And he was finally able to unearth his deepest resentment, which was that his friend could handle rapid changes in life, whereas he needed to have things move slowly because he was so afraid of losing control. His friend had faith in the unknown, but for Maury, it was fraught with danger. Because Maury could analyze his shadow responses through his archetypal patterns, he was able to realize that his saboteur and child within were in fact extending him an invitation to realize his potential. On yet another level, Maury decided to work through an issue with his friend with whom he had a contract to support his own empowerment. That's probably good. We can start at Return to the Orphan next time.
Okay, I'll make a note. Oop, my lid fell out of my pencil.
Oops.
Guess that was the end of it.
It's escaping for its vacation. It's tired of
Yeah,
working.
I'd like to have our life just be a vacation all the time, right? That'd be great. I don't want that. I do recognize some of what he was saying in there about the kind of like when you're confronted with somebody that has more or has a more successful business or more successful career or is just doing something more than you are, and you feel that kind of, for me it doesn't necessarily feel like envy. It feels more like, I don't know, I'm like irritated by I don't know, like, and I know that that's something that's coming up in me, and I'm sitting here going, what is it I'm really annoyed by, or I have this angst about, or whatever, and this kind of does spell it out a little bit. It kind of helps you kind of dig into those feelings of recognizing that, I'm not to this level up here yet because I haven't embraced what it takes to get there, right? And that's the big part of it. We all want it to just be easy, and it doesn't feel like it's gonna be easy. It feels like it's gonna be so much more responsibility and so many more stressors and so many more pieces of the puzzle you're trying to hold together. And that is, I feel like throughout my life I've always been searching for this path that's easier. easier than hard, so when I see somebody else that has kind of, I don't know if it's necessarily what I want, but has more, I don't know, a more successful business. I see that a lot. People that to have a more successful trucking business. And I'm like, I I worry about what it's going to take to get there, and how much extra work it's going to be on my part. And I know my saboteur was in full effect this whole week. I'm like trying to get things done and just was not being able to get in the flow and just kept not getting things done that I wanted to get done. So here I'm at the end of the week and I'm well behind and I'm going, gosh, what the heck was up this week? But I'm guessing that's my saboteur, not letting me, I don't know, stay focused and keep on track and do what I need to get done in order to get to that next level, if you will. So I don't know.
I think with me, I get what you're saying, because me right now working on trying to learn the things I need to learn for this bookkeeping thing I want to do. Whereas I know the bookkeeping and there's aspects of it I need to go over and learn, and some things I haven't dealt with and things like that. But the overall idea of bookkeeping does not scare me. It's the other part of, learning all the things I need to do and getting in and doing my modules and going through and, taking the certification test for getting my QuickBooks certification so that way I can get listed on. And I come home after I've been out all day, and in my head, in the morning, I'll think, okay, after I get done Ubering, I'll come home, get a quick bite to eat, jump in, try to get some more stuff done on there. And I come in and I can get about an hour's worth of work done, but then at that time, I'm like tired and I just want time to recoup and relax. And I'm finding that saboteur part of me coming in, but they just made upgrades. QuickBooks just made upgrades and changes. So now I'm in the midst of doing this. And it's like, oh no, now I gotta, if I don't get this certification done before they finalize this changeover and everything now is going to look, I'm like, but I like the idea of being able to kind of go at my pace that I need to go, but yet I want to finish as quick. But yet I'm just like, I'm tired. I just, I want it to be easier. I wanted to be able to just come in and go boom, boom, and okay, I'm done. I'm passed. I'm ready. So I get that, that part of me that wants that success, that wants that to get there. Kind of like what you were saying, Samantha, you see it, you kind of want to get there, but oh, it's so much work. Oh, there's so much that's involved. And you're almost like, is it really worth it? And will we have that same success? Because just because they have it doesn't necessarily mean you'll have it. And that's the other part, that fear of what if I get there and I don't get anybody to sign in and want me to be their bookkeeper. Oh my God, it's scary. And I think we throw up that scare monster, I'll call it, or that idea or picture, and let it overtake. And half the time, once we get there, it's really not that big. It's like maybe more this size compared to where we're seeing it, like being like way like this. And but once we get there, it's like, why was I so afraid? And so I think that's half the battle for us.
It absolutely is. I loved how it said, people think that successful people or enlightened people don't have all of this crap in their head, but they do. They just deal with it differently. I mean, it lessens over time, like the monkey mind quiets after a while. But that doesn't mean that fears and doubts and saboteur, I mean, they're all still there. They all still show up at times. This past week, well, I do it to myself, and I did it to myself again. I filed for a tax extension because I didn't get it done ahead of time because I didn't understand crypto taxes. They're very complicated. And so for the whole year until I get it done, then I'm under the stress of, I got to get the taxes done. I got to get the taxes done. So, finally this past week I got the taxes done, and, the stress went from way out here to like gone. I woke up the next day. I'm like, oh my God, it feels like, 1,000,000 pounds has been lifted off my shoulders. And I do want to publicly thank you, Samantha, for helping me understand crypto taxes, because if we hadn't worked together, I don't know how we'd have got through that. But, in a way, Samantha and we're working on multiple opportunities that provide passive income because we don't want to work for a living anymore. We just, we're still going to have to manage all that. But as far as, a 9 to 5 or whatever, you do tend to work harder for yourself than you do other people, or at least I do. But, because I know it's all sitting on my shoulders now, right? So I understand that fear about not wanting to go there because what if it doesn't work or whatever. But what I'm doing now isn't working, so I might as well try something different that may or may not work. I don't know. But so far it's looking good. And having passive income is just life-changing. I mean, as someone who started working at the age of 11, and I had 2 jobs even at the age of 11, and then working as a nurse for almost 20. I mean, I've worked in my life. I was a waitress, and I picked up eggs in a chicken house. I mean, I've done a lot of physical manual labor my whole life, and my body obviously hasn't kept up. So finding passive income opportunities is very appealing to me because I have a certain amount of energy in a day to manage everything. And so the more I have coming in that I don't have to deal with or think about or even look at on a daily basis, that relieves the stress. It just relieves the stress. I know that's there. I didn't have a savings account. It's not really good to have a savings account in a bank or something because they're not paying you any interest. I mean, you should use your money and make it work for you, and invest it in things that can bring more money. But yeah, I I definitely know the saboteur well. I also, one of the opportunities I'm in, they have a challenge going, and I joined this challenge, this elite challenge, and my goal, I set this humongous goal, which is to do all of my steps with my feet instead of my hands, which probably doesn't make sense to people, but you can put your watch on your hands and move your hands and it counts as steps. And that's kind of what I had to do, especially when my back was broken. But now that I'm back up out of my wheelchair, I'm pushing myself every day to do more steps with my feet instead of my hands. And boy, my saboteur wants to jump in there all the time. Ouch, that hurts. Stop. Don't do that. And thankfully, I know my body well enough to kind of know when it's bullshitting me and when I really need to stop. I mean, I do honor my body when it needs rest and stuff. But if it weren't for mindset, I would have quit everything a long time ago. I mean, this group and learning these types of concepts and how to control your mind, your thinking and things, I mean, I use these skills every day in my life, and I see other people who don't, who try to make life miserable for everybody. Like it's um because I'm a moderator in a Discord group, and I mean the mindset in there is just horrible for a lot of the people. There's some people in there that are positive, but people just want to whine and moan and groan and not take responsibility to get out and do something for themselves. They just always want somebody else to do it for them. And that's not how life works. Like, we're here to learn and grow. And I absolutely believe that these um, obstacles that are put in our way are there to challenge us to discover how strong and capable we really are, even though we try to make ourselves super small.
I was reading another book
Wow.
this week and came across a quote in there. I wrote it down on my little post-it note, and it says the wealth you seek is under what you are afraid to do. Face your fears and you will attract wealth. And I put that out here because I'm like, I know this. I know this, but I need that reminder, because that's the key, isn't it? And the fears aren't always about the specific activity, but the whatever surrounds that. There's something else that like what I was saying earlier about just the fear of maybe success, even of becoming too much responsibility. And so some of these little baby steps that I know that I don't really fear the baby steps necessarily. It's okay, where are these baby steps going to take me? Is that so? Go ahead, Jason. I jumped out at the same time as you did.
Oh, no, it's okay. I was just doing a reaction. Back in the day, we didn't have emojis, so we did these things called instantaneous reactions, and that's how we expressed ourselves in our communities way back when. So sorry about that. I hope nobody got offended by that, or
Yeah, no, that's fine.
or felt that was in like passive aggressive in any way or anything like that.
I must have missed
Um,
it. What'd you say?
sorry.
He just went kind of like, oh, like he was kind of agreeing with you, kind of like, like, oh, okay, in his head, like, oh, I get it, okay. That's, I think, what he was doing to similarly, you know.
Wow, thanks, Dan. I've never been mansplained before.
Sorry.
Now I know.
No, I'm
Now I
sorry.
know what you girls are going through. No, I'm kidding, Dan. You're right. I was just no, like what Catherine said was really you know, um poignant and very, on point, basically. Very real. And same with you, Samantha. It was really it's amazing to me how these sorts of things, and I guess it's kind of in the recipe that this is something that everyone experiences. And whether you want to give your archetypes different names because you don't don't quite like what you're being told they're called, you can you still are, experience it in some way, and you see it kind of differently. And what you said there, Samantha, about your fortune lies beneath the thing that you that you're afraid of doing or whatever it was. I mean, something similar to that, right? I mean, I think that just holds true for so many people, and maybe it's just uh, maybe it's just intrinsic to that that we're trying to get over a hurdle that we know is something we want to do, but we're being held back in a way. um, and so yeah, so I was just reacting to that, and thank you so much. And you're right. I mean, about the mindset part of it. It's kind of been double-edged, but in the long time, it's long term, it's been really helpful to me. But then I have noticed, and I was thinking just the other day, like, oh my gosh, it's everything will be fine if I just change everything I do and think, I'll be okay. I just let go of everything I learned growing up and now apply all these new things all at once, I'll be fine.
Lori, I think you are unmuted. I, that's
Morning,
funny.
Lori.
Well, I guess we can't hear you. It says you're unmuted. Weird. I wonder if you have your microphone set. You have to set your microphone to which
Maybe.
microphone?
Or
I can't help you with that though.
it looks like she's unmuted, but maybe her microphone is disconnected somehow.
Oh, you muted yourself again.
The port.
Okay, there you're unmuted. So if you can get to where it says on the menu at the bottom of the screen, if you could go to the audio, there's like a little menu. Maybe you got to pick the right microphone. Not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so one thing while she's doing that, one thing I realized was recently, in fact, last week, I have some great notes, but it'd be better if I could read them. But something you were saying, Dan, with what you were talking about, and I guess it was you, were the 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 hard thing about affecting our attitudes and our actions that we have on a daily basis, trying to overcome our being tired when all day we've wanted to do one thing and now we get home, we're not motivated. And we're dealing with emotion instead of the logic of it. And um, it sort of goes along with what they're just saying in the passage about wanting to control others so that you're not isolated, and yet we sort of would rather be in a controlling aspect that allows us to logically be in control without any of the um, obstacles. I was trying to refrain from using baggage because I don't know what. I don't know, but yeah, the obstacles we put in front of ourselves are sometimes just emotional, but they seem as physically challenging as a mountain. So, but one thing I did realize after we got off last week's call, was that some of the things that I put off doing is because I don't want to get hurt in one way or the other, failure or disappointment. But in the same time, while I'm not doing those things, I'm also hurting from regret or disappointment as well. So it's kind of like that the simplified idea of pick your poison or choose your choose your what you the pain that you want to go through, but the idea that it's that, hey, I'm already hurting every day, every moment that I go through and remember that I need to do this thing, whether it be your taxes or your new business or the phone call you got to make or whatever it is, that you're hurting every time you think about that when you're not doing it, when you want to do it and you're not doing it, and because of one of these archetype type situations, you're I'm hurting all the time from it. So, but if I tackle that, and overcome the fear of being hurt or let down and the pain that might be there for the moment, the trade-off is not being hurt constantly anymore from the regret. And it might open up a whole lot of other great possibilities and fortune. So so that was an idea that I came across last week. So thanks for the great conversation last week, everybody. It was really good.
I know in relation to what you were just talking about, I know the other part of why I think I'm kind of, even though I've been at least forcing myself to try and work on it for an hour, even getting an hour in, at least it helps me feel like I'm accomplishing something, even if though but yet I still let myself get sidetracked and distracted. And that's, partly me because it's like and I know the underlying thought is I've actually done this one whole lesson on the certification I'm working on, and I'm getting ready for the next exam from that portion. But yet in my brain, it's like I don't want to take it and not pass. But at the same point, I need to take it to know whether or not, okay, do I need to, and I've already gotten back through the training and I'm going through it a second time. And now I'm coming to the end to where I'm going to probably be there to have it tell me, okay, click to the next section and, take the exam. And I'm like, because I don't want to get pushed back on trying to get this section done so I can move to the next section, because I have I think 3 more to still go through to get to the full certification on this stuff. So that way I can say, okay, I'm done. I've got the level 2 certification done. Now I can do the payroll certification and get all that done before the end of this month. But I've also dealing like what Catherine was talking about. I did I filed an extension to do my taxes, which that deadline's coming up on the 15th or 16th of this month. And I haven't even put anything together. Normally I'm more put together, have time, have my QuickBooks, but I had to let my QuickBooks go because of my financial. So in my brain, I've got all these pressure points of trying to deal with stuff and not let it overwhelm me, but it's overwhelming me because I'm normally more put together than this. I hate this. It's driving me nuts. And so I can get the right numbers so I can hopefully lessen my tax liability, because I know I'm going to have a tax liability on the one I have from last year that I got to pay off every month or work on paying on. So it's like a triple-edged sword that I'm just like, but I like what you said about that post-it note, Samantha, about, the treasure is buried underneath that. I just have to dig down and go through all that crap to get to that treasure that will probably be more what I want, and will probably lessen a lot of issues and things like that by getting the certification done, getting the taxes at least out of the way, and then just adding on to what I owe and pay every month. And but it's the minutia of going through all that right now just is overwhelming, on top of trying to Uber all day to make the money I need to make to even survive right now. So it's like, so yeah. But good points that both of you said.
Yeah, and I have the soup kitchen chef running around like before my taxes were done. Like I was like, no soup for you. You cannot draw. You cannot do anything that you enjoy. You gotta get the taxes done. I mean, and I have to tell them to shut up too sometimes. Because I was thinking, even before I got the text done, I was thinking, that's not a healthy way to go about it. Like you can't just deny yourself all pleasure in life until you get the taxes done. Like you need to set aside certain times to work on the taxes and certain times to work on the other things that you enjoy, and just stick to that schedule. But no, my soup kitchen chef gets in there. No soup for you.
Oh my goodness. I know what you're saying, Catherine.
Cracking
Uh,
that with.
and the funny thing was, is when I was in there in the crypto software working on that, it really wasn't that unpleasant. It was kind of unpleasant to begin with when I was like, what does this mean? What does that mean? I don't understand this. I don't understand that. But once I got it kind of figured out, I'm like, oh, this isn't too bad. This is just like doing my regular bookkeeping. And but it's funny how we do that to ourselves. I mean, I have that kind of same thing that goes on in my head that, like this whole week. So I felt like I really didn't get anything done. Now I got some stuff done, but I don't feel like I got everything done I needed to do. And I know that that is absolutely true. But I kept thinking to myself, okay, I need to have a schedule so that I can schedule in, okay, I'm going to do, my exercise in the morning, and then I'm going to have this activity I'm going to do here, then I'm going to work on this in the books, and then I'm going to do this for that other side thing. And then I need to have like a consistent schedule that I can stick to so I can allow myself to have that like enjoyment time, because otherwise I'm just like wallowing around making myself feel like I'm doing something when I'm really not, or it's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. But then I left the house the other day because I had to take some medicine over to the school for my grandson, and it was all beautiful outside, and I'm like, gosh, I wish I could just go for a walk. It's so beautiful and wonderful, and I need to get out of the house more because it just uplifted my energy, right? And then like you were saying, my little person in the back of my mind was going, but you don't have your work done yet. You can't go out and have a nice time in nature and have a good, you can't go for a walk. That's like leisurely and not, just that's the silliness. I'm like, I know the exercise is going to help benefit me, but at the same time, I feel like that's like an indulgence instead of like getting the work done. So I don't know. Silliness. Our brains mess with ourselves. Lori, are we hearing you yet? Say something. I see you. You're unmuted. I know I need to have like a coach of a sort that will help me come up with a good, workable schedule to keep me, help me. you know, I don't know, maybe in this coaching academy that's coming up this next year that Catherine and I are in, maybe they'll have like an aspect in there where it talks about better time management. That's what I need, better time management.
Hey, I want to lift you up for a second because I know you're not going to say it, but I just want to congratulate Samantha because when she joined me on this cryptocurrency venture that we're on, she really didn't know anything about crypto. I mean, heard of Bitcoin and all of that, but didn't have any not inner knowledge. And now, a year later, or maybe a little over a year, but right around a year, I think,
Yeah.
she's actually just got certified as a coach to teach crypto. Like, she's come so far. She just jumped in and now learned so much that she's become certified. So bravo to you,
Thank you.
because you conquered that fear, and that's huge. I mean, I know how huge that is because I know what a difference that education has made in my life, just even on the trading. I mean, yesterday I made 21% on my trading. It's
That's so awesome. I'm
yeah,
about ready to send you my money so you can trade with it.
it's just like, oh my God, why these banks are giving out like 0.0053%, or something. I don't even know if they're even giving that anymore. Pretty much you have to pay them to hold your money. So I just wanted to congratulate you for that, because that's a huge step. And I need to do all of my tests so that I can be certified now that my taxes are done.
Yes, you'll do it. It'll be
Yes,
easy.
you do it.
It'll be easy.
Awesome.
Did we get Laura yet?
Lori. Now we're about ready to jump back off again.
I know. I'm so sorry.
It's got to be in your audio somewhere.
But I like what you were saying, that you wanted to just be able to, because that's part of what I'd like to do and I'm thinking maybe I could go to Chat GPT or something, or maybe come up with some type of schedule that I can come up with or something. It may not be like a life coach or something or a mentor, to help with that, but maybe it might be a start to find a way to get myself to better than just kind of going through it day by day myself and say, okay, when I wake up, but then by the end of the day, my energy, me, myself, and I are like fighting and we're arguing with ourselves. Like, no,
Yeah.
you need to sit there and do that for an hour. But no, I'm tired. I really want to just play and relax and recharge my mind and do my solitaire on my phone for a little while. And or no, I want to, just scroll, and I know I shouldn't scroll it, but scroll Facebook or, just the mindless dumb things, where I don't focus on anything, because all day long I'm focusing on the road, focusing on customers, focusing on the phone app, focusing on, keeping, and I'm sure you guys, know all from what you guys do for your jobs and what you do. You're constantly trying to, you're focused on that. So your energy is drained for anything else. And then when you go to do that thing, it's almost like, you got to really reach deep down to, do it, even though and you do it, but it's just, and then you look at some of these people that are where you want to be, and they say, oh, it's just a matter of, this, and this. And I'm like, I hear you. I get it. I understand it. But how the F do you implement it and get, you know, because some of these people, they say they are up at like 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and they're just, and I'm like,
I can't do that.
I'm
How are
just
you
like,
supposed to do that and get your 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night they say you're supposed to have for health purposes? That's what I
yeah.
run into.
And I'm just now getting, because I on my phone track my sleep habits, and I'm getting good sleep habits, and I'm like, good, I got one thing am I under control. Now can I get the rest of it under, you know? But I just look at him go, it just, and but I want to be there, but it just ah that going back to that saboteur. And I think that's what it is, that saboteur in me just constantly rearing its ugly head.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I'm always like looking for practical things who I can do to help me. And what you all just reminded me of is that old saying is of the grass is always greener on the other side. So I don't know what that saying means to you all, but that saying growing up has always been like you're you're not content if I'm not content with what I have and I'm looking at other people, what other people have, or that sure it's gonna look better because it's on the other side of the fence and it's not it's kind of like uh, uh, disempowering my own situation. But having learned some of the things that I've learned with you guys and then with recently with other people talking about how you implement some of these mindset things, a lot of it talks about putting yourself there putting yourself out in front of what you're needing to do to go ahead and start experiencing in your mind the outcome of what you're trying to accomplish. And and instead of focusing on all the things that you got to do to get there, focusing on the end result before you even get started putting yourself into that feeling of how it's going to be, how great it's going to be, all the things that it's going to change, how it's going to make you feel better and take away all your anxiety and make you feel accomplished and empowered and all that and generate that up inside yourself. Those good feelings of that accomplishment up inside yourself to get motivated to get going on it. And and so now that I'm thinking about the grass is always greener, it gives me a different thing to think about, a different definition of that phrase, if you were, to say, yeah, the grass is greener on the other side. Let me think about that and know what it's going to mean for me when I push myself to get over that fence and over that hurdle and then go with that. And so I think in the moment when we get home and we're like, well, all we want to do is sit down and play, our game, solitaire, watch TV, take a nap or whatever. Um, I think fine, do a regiment of, maybe take a 20-minute nap and put it on a timer and then get up and go. But then take a moment to meditate and think about what that greener side of the fence is gonna be. And I think if you do that, at least for me, a few times when I've done that, it's like I get to the point where, okay, I want that. Let me go to the computer and get going. It's just like all of a sudden you're just like, okay, I want it so bad that you forget that you're tired from your day and other stuff. So you just kind of are able to gin up that emotional motivation that way. And I don't know, I just hope that helps. And for me, it was, it was eye-opening that I could change the idea of that simple phrase, and that now it has a new meaning to me. So,
Awesome,
yeah.
Jason. I love that. I love it.
Thank you.
Lori, I thought I heard you there for a second. I heard something. Was there people talking in your background, Jason? For a moment? No. Okay.
I thought it was from Lori's too.
I
Yeah, I
thought
thought.
it was too.
Can we
It's
hear you?
really
Say,
low though.
yeah. Say something, Lori.
Are you
Speak.
making any noise, Lori?
Can you hear us?
I'm not sure she can hear us.
Clap your
I don't think
hands
so.
or
Can you hear
ring
us,
a
Lori?
bell.
Nod your head. No. Okay. Well,
We'll have to
hopefully.
get her straight by next week. We'll get
Yeah.
her. Yeah.
Right, right.
I gotta run, guys.
Yeah.
Love y'all.
Yep, me too.
All right.
Everybody have an awesome, amazing week.
Thank you.
And for those of you who are watching, give us a like if you found anything useful out of this video, and share it with anybody you think could benefit. So with that, have a great, awesome, amazing week, and we'll see you next time on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.